Absolutely. So we'll begin the show here.
Sure.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on Watchers Talk this afternoon for a matinee show. Like I was saying last night, we have Ileana, the Star Traveler, here with us this afternoon, and we will be talking about the secret space program, runaway civilizations, alien bases on the moon, on Mars, maybe even Venus, who knows, maybe even on Jupiter or perhaps even outside our solar system here. We are not really quite sure because the government keeps us in the dark. They want us to continuously think that our propulsion system has not changed since the 1960s, but yet everything else has progressed. So that raises a lot of red flags for me personally as to how that can be. If you guys remember, we went, our cellular phones used to be the size of a car, and now we can literally put it in our pocket or even wear it on our faces. So with that being said, the technology has advanced, but yet the propulsion system hasn't advanced. Now, is that true or is that a lie? I'm thinking it's a lie because these guys have technology that they're not sharing with us and they're not telling us about it. And chances are they're probably not going to tell us. And that's why we have people like Ileana here with us today that are going to enlighten us and give us an insight on this secret space program. So before we begin this show, I just want to quickly remind you guys that we are doing a petition for the standing stones in Australia. Help us to protect them. There's a massive, a battle going on to protect the site. It's the Stonehenge of Australia. It's a very sacred site, and it's one of the key sites on the planet. I will be posting the petition link here in the comments, so please follow that link, go and sign the petition, share it with your friends and family, and help us to protect this site, because to protect this site, we're actually protecting ourselves. So now, with that being said, I'm just going to jump right into the show here with Ileana. So, Ileana, I want to thank you very much for joining me here this afternoon. We spoke, about 3 weeks ago we spoke, and we were put in connection from Farouk Ali, and he'd highly recommended that you be here on our show. So, because I have a lot of respect for Farouk, I decided to reach out, and I'm glad I did, because you've provided me with some information that I'm still going through, and I have a lot of questions about that for you, but not for the show. That's something a little bit more private. But here on this show, we're going to talk about your experiences and the secret space program. So before we begin, why don't you introduce yourself and let our audience know who you are and how you came about to where you are today.
Sure. So I go by Ileana, the Star Traveler, and I have a website called Messages from a Star Traveler. I consider myself something like a star seed. So for me, that means I've had various extraterrestrial lifetimes and also Earth lifetimes, and I've remembered all of that through shamanic and hypnosis regression. Like, I learned shamanism myself, how to do past life regression, how to do hybrid hypnosis with shamanism and with the standard hypnosis, how to bridge that together. And through that, I also remembered that I was in the secret space program as an interplanetary corporate conglomerate asset on their Mars bases and in association with their cybernetics labs. So that's how I remembered the SSP stuff, secret space program stuff, doing a 16 back through the quantum leap time travel program, because what they have time travel technology that could literally put you into any timeline or separate timeline from Earth. So it seems for you like 60 years have passed, but in reality only 11 years have passed on Earth, while you're still doing your daily things like going to school, working, etc. But in conjunction, you're doing your 16 back. So it all seems very normal, but it's not, because they have ways of separating slipstream timelines. So you're on one timeline doing your normal Earth business, right? And on a separate timeline, you're doing the quantum leap time travel 60 and back. That's how it is for me. That is how I've come to understand it. So, and most people have memories of being returned to 0 point when they were young. That's not exactly what I remember. So, and I had also been abducted by the reptilians from the age of 2 to 10 by two different groups, one the Black Drazo and the other Sharab Invictus reptilians. So I've remembered quite different things, and that's basically what I've gone through. And I've taken alternative medicine courses to be an alternative practitioner, as well as I worked in the research industry. So for me, I've been, the work that I was doing, I was trained to be like a research assistant type of a job in a research facility. So I'm very good at researching. I'm very good at connecting the dots. And I rely mostly on my own recall memories of what I've been able to get out of the past life regression and the hybrid hypnosis / shamanic regression sessions that I do in myself. And I was trained to do this by a certified shaman, and I took 3 levels of shamanism to be able to do that myself. I did the practicums. I practiced on friends, so I'd be able to do this correctly on myself and others. I don't do it as a job right now. I'm in transitioning right now between jobs and stuff. So, but I am qualified to do this as well. I have some basic counseling and psychology, so to be able to do that, because as an alternative medicine practitioner, you must know how to work with clients on various things. So I also did crystal healing. I am certified in that, in Reiki, in energy healing work, Akashic records, and Wicca magic, and so much more. Also psychic development and tarot and a lot of other, healing modalities. In I'm trained in the esoteric arts, like the Wicca magic, white light magic. So that is basically my background. And throughout this whole journey, I've discovered that I was an ET abductee, an ET contactee, because I've met various ET racist extraterrestrials all the way until, from young age until 2016. And through doing the shamanism stuff, I discovered the SSP stuff, that I also was in the SSP, and I officially left the SSP in 2014. That's when the asset, basically my services as an asset for the ICC ended, but they still took me recurringly, even beyond 2014 once in a while, for different types of missions that they like to put their assets through. So even when they release you completely from the SSP, you're never truly gone from there. They can still re-abduct you and take you. So that's basically my bio.
So when did your experience begin? You said you were very young when it started. How did it begin?
Well, it began with the reptilian abductions from age of 2 to 10 in the Ukraine. So I'd say it began in 1989 at the age of 3, I believe, 2 or 3. And it lasted until the age of 10. And I also lived in various countries. So that's the reptilian stuff. Then at about the age of 15, started having weird memories as well of being taken into underground bases somewhere out in the Sierra Madre Mountains. That's near California and the border of Mexico. So I remember being trained to open Stargateway portals. Mm-hmm. Now this was, if you've heard of Monarch Solutions, this is prep work for putting somebody into the secret space program. So they were trying to develop out my psychic abilities. So I would open Stargateway jump portals naturally with my psychic abilities, create and open a natural portal and sustain walking through it while the portal is open. So I'd end up being on the other side somewhere from the location, from the forest where I was, near the Sierra Madre Mountains, somewhere near a cabin in the woods. So that's the training I had with Monarch Solutions. And again, that's also a secret group. It's a black ops group, as I understand it. They deal also with training psychic assets and time travel. And they deal with that and they torture you. Their common torture tactics is to drown you and then resuscitate you to desensitize you to feeling pain so you can actually take various thresholds of pain and not complain about it. That's how they train you. They break you down, put you back together. So you don't feel guilty about inflicting pain on others and experiencing pain yourself. So they have various torture tactics to basically indoctrinate you into Monarch solutions and get you ready for the SSP stuff. I wasn't in my labs, but it's similar to that. I think Monarch solutions is like my labs, but different. They didn't expose me to extraterrestrials in Monarch solution. It was human personnel.
Now, why do you suppose out of 8 billion people on the planet, you were chosen for this abduction? Is there do you have some sort of a genetic background, a star seed, or something like that you're connected to?
Yeah, I have extraterrestrial DNA inside me. I'm an Andromedan Palladian hybrid. And I remember the extraterrestrial lifetimes, and that's embedded in my genetic DNA sequences right now. It's embedded in the cellular memory of my DNA, so that's why they took me. Because what they like to do, somebody who's had extraterrestrial lifetimes before, they're perfectly suited for these SSP programs, Monarch Solutions, and for extraterrestrial abductions, because once you've had those lifetimes, and if you remember the extraterrestrial lifetimes, you have the psychic abilities that they covet for these programs, because their psychic assets are the best type to put on different combat missions for communications, linguistics, whatever jobs they put you in. If you have advanced psychic abilities, then you're the perfect asset for them.
Now, what does the psychic abilities have to do with opening stargates and portals? How would that go about?
Well, you use your natural psychic ability to figure out where the electromagnetic fields are of the Earth, right? Because there's natural electromagnetic fields where portals open up from time to time, like wormholes on the planet itself. So my psychic abilities were used to actually open those natural electromagnetic fields to create the portal. So I didn't have to wait until the portal itself opened up like a wormhole. I could just open up the portal with my psychic abilities by using my own mind to do this. And what they do in Monarch Solutions, they give you different drug serums to make both of your brain hemispheres the same, to align them to be the same, because you have your left brain hemisphere and your right brain hemisphere, and they function differently for cognitive abilities and whatnot, just for cognitive functioning. Left hemisphere and right hemisphere of the lobes of the brain. So what they did to me, they actually gave me drug serums to make those left side of the brain and right side of the brain, both hemispheres, work the same way in polarity, to make it work like a mini supercomputer, basically, to amplify the psychic abilities and to open the portals.
I see. So you're essentially using your energy and also the energy of the Earth, the natural energy, and amplifying that to a certain area, and that will open up a portal. Now, that portal, when it opens, is it a time portal, or is it a wormhole that you can go from one place to the next to the next?
For me, it was the wormhole, just to go from one place to the next and the next. I was quite young, it was 12 to 15, so a time portal, it takes a lot of energy to sustain a time portal. So I was just keeping an open wormhole portal as a reference example.
Now, the wormhole, how would that work? Now, do you walk through it, or is there a vessel that you would have to take through it? Can you give us a visualization of what it would look like if, say, I was going to step through a wormhole?
You keep the portal open. You yourself sustain the portal with your psychic ability, and you walk through it. It looks like this kind of like a watery, bluish, white tunnel with light, and you walk through it, and you have to keep it stable. You have to use a lot of your psychic energy to visualize the portal and keep the electromagnetic energies stable and walk through it. I couldn't take a ship through the portal because I was just being trained to open it and to sustain it myself for like 10 minutes while I walk through it and end up somewhere on the other side, and, maybe 10 miles away or something like that. So I could only do it for myself and walk through the portal. I could not keep it open long enough to sustain it to get a ship through it. It's keep in mind, it takes a lot of psychic ability to maintain these portals, to keep them, the natural ones, open. If you use technology to open these portals, then you can take a ship through, but you have to have a big portal system built. You have to use technology to do it. So there's a difference between what you can sustain naturally through a natural portal with psychic ability and what you can do with technology. With the natural portals, you can teleport yourself through them and end up somewhere on the other side of the planet, or, bilocate from location A to location B on the planet. If you're trying to use this portal technology naturally to go off-world, it takes a lot of energy, a lot of psychic energy to do it. And sometimes...
Do you think that the Hadron Collider might be one of its goals to try to open up a portal?
Yes, of course, that's one of its main goals. Going back to what I was doing with the portals, there is thought consciousness assisted technology that's been done, reverse engineered from extraterrestrial technology. Like you wear a visor or you get Neuralink implants in your brain that amplify your psychic abilities by 100-fold. Then you can actually do bilocation to other planets with this thought consciousness assisted technology. If you're wearing a smart suit with a visor and stuff, you can actually bilocate to a different planet.
Amazing. When you if you open up a portal, would it be possible for me to walk through while you sustain it? Say if I don't have the psychic abilities and you were able to open one up, would I be able to walk through that and then?
Yeah. As long as I was wearing, as long as I was wearing a smart suit with that thought assisted consciousness technology, yes. Like I said, keep in mind, it takes a lot of psychic energy to just maintain taking one person through the portal. If you're not using any type of mind, thought, consciousness assisted technology, if you're just doing it with your abilities, I can right now, I haven't been trained to do this for a long time, so I could barely sustain walking myself through it at this age because I don't have access to any of that technology or to even the full-on training. It took several years just to train me to do that. I have the natural psychic abilities. I do. I often can tell my mom, my mom believes in psychic ability. Can I use it as an example?
Sure.
So my mom went to the library and she checked out some CDs, some opera CDs with guys singing. And I've listened to similar stuff by these guys that they've put out. And my mom said, okay, this is number 5 playing. Can you tell me who the singer is? And I told my mom exactly, just by listening to the voice, I told her the name of this guy is this. And she's like, wow, that's amazing. And then she had me repeat this several times. And each time I told her who the singer was. So, and I hadn't listened to that particular CD, so I didn't know the order sequence of who was singing what in the opera. There was 5 guys, so singing in that particular CD, and it was like 1 hour long. So she had me give the names for like 5 of the songs, name the guys who were singing it without me having before listened to this particular CD and not knowing the sequence of who was singing what in what order. And I told her right away, just psychically, I intuited who was doing what, who was singing what. And I told her, and she's like, wow, you have amazing abilities. And that's not the first time that has happened. Sometimes what has happened is like when I walk by somebody, past somebody, I could see their electromagnetic field of their body, literally energy, where they have energetic blockages, disease, whatnot. And I've literally seen people's physical and chemical imbalances in their body. And the ones that are open-minded to this, I've told them what's going on with you and what kind of treatment you might want to try. You know, I'm not a medical doctor. Don't take it as gospel from me. Don't take it as medical advice, but take it as advice, what is referred to a medical intuitive, sort of like that. And people have told me, wow, what you told us is exactly what's going on. I've also done, you know, past life readings for people, and they're like, you're spot on. That's exactly what it is, what's going on with me. And I've told them that how it relates to their personal life right now, their past life experiences, what's going on with them now, how that relates to now. And I've even told people, I was with friends, and I said, okay, you guys will be together as a couple in a year. And they're like, no, we're just friends. And they became a couple, actually. And some other psychics told them the same thing. So I'm like, yeah, I'm not surprised. They're like, how did you know this? I'm like, well, it's just psychic ability. I could see the soul aspects of what's going on with you in your life. It's as easy as that. People often say to me, oh my God, how do you know this? How do you know all of this? And I said, it's psychic ability. It's just being a psychic, and intuitive, an empathic intuitive. That's all it is. And the secret space programs prize this highly, people who can do that stuff.
Now, you were saying earlier that you have extraterrestrial DNA. Now, I was wondering, is it possible for a full-blooded human to be able to do what you're able to do, like, I mean, intuitively and psychically, or is it necessary that you need to have the higher consciousness DNA, let's say, in within you?
Well, all humans have psychic abilities to a certain degree. They're latent until, like, when you're born as children. Some children who are starseeds, who are born that way already, their psychic abilities are not latent. But most children, you know, who have no idea, like, they're not starseeds, they're full-bred humans, right? They're born with latent psychic abilities that can be trained to certain degrees. Because nobody is the same, really. I can't even say that we're all human, because we've been played around genetically. Like 24 different races contributed to our genetic stock. Mm-hmm. So I can't really say we're all like 100% human bred, because we're really not.
Yeah, I like what you just said there. I had a guest on here a few months back, maybe a year ago. Renee, the intuitive psychic, and I believe she was saying the same thing, or it may have been Heather Reese that was, said pretty much exactly the same thing as you did, that we have DNA from the multiple different species in us, and that's why they've taken interest in us. Is that kind of your stand on that as well?
Yeah, it is my stand, because even in the secret space program, I actually worked with reptilian human hybrids that looked like us, with slightly different features, bigger eyes, you know, scaly skin around, and different skin tone, like greenish blue skin tone. So it's not just humans that work in the SSP, the ICC. There's human ET hybrids working as well on those Mars bases in collaboration with human personnel, but it has to be hybrids. It has to be an ET human hybrid. The ICC, for some reason, they don't accept full ETs. They'll only work with ET human hybrids. Maybe it's for the comfort of the personnel. Maybe there's some restriction on who they allow on their bases. But it's quite common for SSPs to work with ET human hybrids.
I've heard in the past, I can't really recall now where I heard this, but I was the way the video went was the narrator was explaining that there is extraterrestrials walking here on Earth with us, and they look similar to us. Now, sometimes you can tell a difference if you're standing next to someone, and they may look a little offside. They don't look, normal. They don't look like a normal human, but yet that they do. And chances are that they're probably extraterrestrials that come to this world to visit us, but they're taking a huge chance of walking amongst us here because they're not allowed to carry their weapons. And they could be killed or hit by a bus or a car or kind of what have you. Taking that chance of coming here to visit. Is that accurate?
Yeah. It's really accurate because the ones that walk among us, the ETs, they're either the extraterrestrials that look completely human, just with slight variation. So we wouldn't even bat an eye if they walked past us because they're passable. They're passable to look like us, or they're ET human hybrids who are acclimated to actually being able to live on Earth, either for short periods of time or somewhat longer periods of time. Some full ETs that are humanoid looking can't live here for very long time periods. They can only be here for a small period of time unless they've been inoculated with some drug serum or something for prolonged ability to stay here on Earth.
But the heavy gravity of the Earth and the atmospheric pressures have anything to do with that as well?
Yeah, of course, because every different living environment might not be fully adaptable or sustainable for somebody from a different planet. But again, you can take drug serums to adapt to the living environment where you're placed. If you have access to such things, which extraterrestrials do, or some extraterrestrials are even capable of changing their genetics and biology and physiology chemically through themselves, just by naturally chemically changing their genetics to adapt to different living environments. Biologically, they have those capabilities.
But they have the capability of shape-shifting?
Yeah, some do. Yeah,
Yes,
or there's holographic technology that can make you look like anybody, or you could take a drug serum to temporarily change your form. Like example of Star Trek, what were they able to do? They were able to inject some chemical compound into you and change you so you temporarily look like an extraterrestrial.
Mm-hmm.
So they disclosed that in Star Trek and other disclosure movies, which so it's that's the best example reference I could tell you. I've seen it prevalently on Star Trek.
The person that comes to mind for me when you were just mentioning the chemical change in their makeup and as well physical makeup is Set from ancient Egypt, Set, Osiris, Nephthys, where Set was able to transform himself into a hippopotamus. Now, I don't think that he literally turned himself into a hippopotamus, but our ancestors are trying to tell us that he was able to shapeshift and he turned into something monstrous or something powerful like a hippopotamus.
Yeah, that's quite possible. I mean, many different extraterrestrial species have the ability to shapeshift or slightly change their appearance in variables. And there's also holographic technology that can really do this. You wear a small button on your clothing, your suit, right? You press it, you holographically look like something else, and it's sustained. Even if you touch the person who's changed holographically, right? They have an electromagnetic field around them, a protective frequency, so it will maintain the holographic shift, the holographic shape-shifting.
Yeah, kind of like again, we're going back to Star Trek. Kind of like the Doctor from I believe it's Voyager, where he had that little pad holographic thing on his shoulder, and it would physically make him into a person. You can touch him, and yada yada yada.
Yeah, like a living holographic matter, biomatter. Right. So that can be fused with nanotechnology. You can do that actually, and the reptilians have those abilities, the nanotechnology and the shape-shifting ability. Some reptilian species, not all reptilians are the same species actually. So that's a good example of the Doctor, the living hollow matrix.
Yeah. No, so now let me ask you this. There's been a lot of talk about this online and, of course, everywhere else about the most famous aliens that the planet knows about, and that would be the Greys. And now there's a lot of speculation, and a lot of people have said that the Greys are us from the future. Some have said that they're a biological artificial intelligence. Now, have you had contact with the so-called Greys?
No, I've not had contact with Greys. I've had
Because
contact.
there's different types of Greys, right? There's like 5 or 6 different species, I believe.
Yeah, there's more than just 5 or 6 species. There's the Zeta reticuli, there's the engineered Greys, the artificial intelligence ones that are, cloned and stuff. Now, I don't subscribe to the theory that the Greys are us from the future. I don't
Yeah,
subscribe
me
to that
neither.
at all. It's just from a scientific point of view, that just doesn't seem very plausible to me. Like I've experienced quite a bit, but it intuitively and discernment wise, that just doesn't jive with Earth history and what I know. Now I personally haven't had contact with any Greys, so I can't really speculate on what other people have gone through. But some of those Greys do have amazing healing technology. I can tell you that much from what I've heard from other experiencers, the ones that don't do the abductions, because there's Greys that are just there to help people as well with contact experiences and healing and stuff. And there's the Greys that do the abductions and stuff. So you really can't lump them in all in one group, like you said yourself. So,
So, so the space program that we know of began, roughly in the 50s when the USSR, former USSR, they launched their rockets into space, and then eventually they put Sputnik up there, and then that was followed through with the American technology as well, where they started sending people up in space. Excuse me. So once, in 1969, when Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, when they came back, what do you think happened on the moon since we haven't gone back? Because there's a lot of people that they say we didn't go there. Some say that we did go there. My jury's still open on that. So I'm thinking that they went there and someone told them not to come back because possibly we weren't ready.
well, the thing is, can you tell me when Werner von Braun came on the scene to work for NASA? Do you remember the exact date?
I don't recall the exact date, no.
I think even before he worked.
Project Paperclip.
Paperclip, yeah.
72 or something like that?
Yeah, that's I think when he went to work.
67.
Yeah, 67. That's when he went to work for NASA officially. But Project Paperclip happened before that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he was transferred from Germany to US to work for aeronautics and stuff. So Werner von Braun was actually one of the people who mastered the capability of building space orbital platforms, space stations, circular ones that the ICC actually uses as a model. They use that as a base model to build better ones, according to Werner von Braun's plans. So even Disney featured Werner von Braun's space station plans, and Werner von Braun wrote a book about the plan to go to Mars. So Werner von Braun was in the secret space program, the initial planning stages for the US to build out bases on Mars, how to get there because Werner von Braun built the V2 rocket.
That's right. And so that's the one that NASA's been using up until recently.
Yes, well, NASA is a front. What Werner von Braun was doing for NASA was quite more advanced. He was actually building the anti-grav space flight capability spaceships that actually did reach Mars and the moon, and in the US side of the ICC and other corporations associated with the ICC, they used Werner von Braun to build various spaceship platforms, space station platforms, ships to get to those platforms, ships to get to Mars, the moon. So he was integral in that research and development of spacecraft and space station platforms to live on and to work on.
So do you know if we are now welcome back to the moon?
Well, they have Lunar Operations Command, which is one of the biggest humanoid bases on the moon. They have that, and certain personnel go there for training, for operational details to be given to their missions.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we've not been allowed to build out too many bases on the moon. I know the Dark Fleet has one base there, and the Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate has one base there as well. The SSP, the Alliance has Lunar Operations Command. Now, I don't like to call them the SSP Alliance because that's a term that's been coined by a certain whistleblower. I don't like to use Lunar Operations Command, Dark Fleet, but those were the terms that were provided, right, by this whistleblower, so I use the common terminology that most people are now familiar with. Even though I don't agree that Lunar Operations Command is an old German base that looks like a swastika. From the memories that I have of being there, it's actually the SSP base that they built out themselves, and it's various different modular, circular buildings that are connected together by tunnel systems, by corridors and tunnels. So it's not a swastika that was configured.
We kind of see that on the moon as well. There's a YouTube video out that clearly shows that there are structures on the moon, and one of them looks like great big pipes. I can call them. Would those be the passage tunnels to go from one area of the moon to another, or one base to another?
Yeah, because they use underground tunnel systems. They've hollowed out the tunnel systems. They have stuff that goes on beyond boring machines. They have lasers that could literally create the tunnel systems within a day or two. Laser technology. Yeah, and for me, Lunar Operations Command was modular style, circular domed buildings. Connected by different corridors to get to the buildings, like 32 different buildings, with dome technology protecting those circular buildings, right? So you're not hit by meteorites, by asteroids and whatnot. It protects the dome, protects the modular buildings that are connected by the corridors and underground tunnel systems, where there's also labs, cybernetic labs, which I mentioned before in my intro, where they actually, what they do is they take humans, right, and human body parts and splice it with cybernetic technology to build cyborgs as soldiers and scouts to trade with extraterrestrials for more advanced technology, whatever they want, negotiations for trading routes, whatever. So that's what the interplanetary corporate conglomerate does with their Mars bases and labs. That's on Mars, and there's the Lunar Operations Command on the moon, which is the secret space program's main headquarters. But the thing is, the moon is more of an extraterrestrial type of location for extraterrestrial bases. Mars has been overrun with ICC and other SSP factions, so Mars is mostly theirs, the SSPs. The moon is not. There's like one Dark Fleet base, one ICC base on the moon, Lunar Operations Command, some labs, and some mining facilities. That's what's on the moon that belongs to the SSP. Mars is a whole other story. ICC, I know of 11 bases where I've been on the ICC Mars bases, but they have close to 200 something bases on Mars itself.
Why so many? For an uninhabited planet, why have 200 bases? That's a bit of an overkill, right?
Mars is fully inhabited. There's the original Mars colonists living on Mars that survived the catastrophe, the nuclear war that was there. They survived, and they're on Mars. There's also reptilians living on Mars. There's also other types of extraterrestrial species living underground on Mars. So Mars is not uninhabited. It's fully inhabited. And we're on Mars. The ICC is on Mars. Humans have colonized Mars. That has happened. That is done.
So the spectrum that we see Mars in as a red spectrum that they show us, is that the real image of the planet, or is it actually blue like ours?
Well, it's not fully a red spectrum because there's oceans on Mars, and so it's not that full red spectrum. There's blue places where there's water, but water does not fully cover Mars like it does Earth. We are a blue planet because we still have our oceans. What happened on Mars is that half of its atmosphere did deteriorate and it did evaporate, but half of it is still there. So there's water on Mars. There's some scruffy forests and, places where it's not all desert and arid.
Yeah.
There's ice caps, there's water. So there is some blue spots on Mars. It's not totally red.
I was recently going through Google Mars, and what I came across, what it looked like to be trees on Mars, and I was taken back by it because I was actually looking for another face on Mars. I think the face would be of Mona Lisa, and because we have that one face, I think in the I forgot the area of what's that called now?
Cydonia region.
That's right, in Cydonia regions, there's the face, the pyramid, the city. And then not too far from there's another face, and then it was near that face that I discovered that it kind of looked like shadows of trees, very limber trees, but at least to say that they were trees, and I was quite surprised by that, to see trees on Mars. And that's kind of really where I changed my perception on Mars, and I was like, okay, what am I seeing here? Why am I seeing this? And then I began talking to other people, and this is when I was informed that they actually show us Mars in a red spectrum because they don't really want us to know what's going on there.
But the funny thing is, you can change the spectrum of what you're seeing, the topography. Another SSP experiencer, who's our founder of our secret space program group on Facebook, he actually showed me how to change the spectrum, the red spectrum, right? To discover the domed cities and the biodomes that they have built, the basis of the domed, the base. Okay, let me go back. So his name is Tomas Alvin, right? He's been on Mars as an experiencer. He's been on one of the Mars colonies, and he was actually looking for the domed cities, right? The colonies, cities, bases. He changed the spectrum topography from red to kind of greenish brown and different colors to be able to find those domed bases, cities, colonies, because there's a lot of stuff out there. And he taught me the technique, and I actually did it, and I found a lot of domed colonies and the bases. One of the base 5, ICC Mars base 5, shows a dome. And that's not a caldera. It's not a caldera, because there's calderas that look like, like a dome.
Yeah.
That's not a caldera. That's not a natural made thing. Because before changing the topography color spectrum, it's not there. And after changing it, suddenly there's dome shape there.
How do you go ahead and change the spectrum?
Photoshop. You do it in Photoshop. I actually posted this on Facebook, on Messages from a Star Traveler on my Facebook page. And I have the instructions of how it's done, so you could do it through Photoshop. And it's worked for me. I tried it myself. I'm familiar with Google Mars because that's how I've actually mapped the physical locations of the various Mars bases and the lab facilities that are on Mars where I was. So you can look it up, physical locations of where I've been. And I also did it with the Mars colonies and one of the bases. Like I did all of the bases where I was, and only one popped up that it's domed shape, that is protected by a dome, which is base 5. And it's all there. It's all there. I made a video about it as well. And I put it out to the public. So there's a way of checking Mars topography and locations to see, because they like to protect their facilities with domes, which is reverse engineered ET technology as well. Those domes have been discovered on the moon as well. Maybe. So they actually use that on Mars.
So here,
actively.
before after I'd come across the trees, and then I was speaking to some friends of mine, and they told me about the blue Mars. And at that time, I really began digging into Mars, and near a crater called Yellowknife. Just a little bit north of it, I guess, when you're coming out of the crater, I noticed that there was a city there. And then I was quite surprised by it. So I quickly took screenshots because I couldn't believe it that I was actually seeing this. And then I took screenshots, and then I went back a couple of days later to look at the same thing, and this time it was gone. They had you know a brown patch over it, and I couldn't see it. So I showed to my wife, and I was like, "Hey, look! Remember a couple of days ago there was a city here, and then now there isn't. What's going on?" Uh, what do you think about that?
Well, satellite topography changed. They looked at it probably and said, "Oh no, you could actually see this if somebody's a researcher and knows the SSP history and stuff." They've pixelated it and made it unrecognizable. So
Mhm.
when you do a second pass at it, it's changed, and they'll tell you the satellite telemetry changed and the ground changed. Now you won't see it. It's nothing. It's just a shadow or whatnot. It's pixelation. It's excuses. NASA gives you so much excuses,
Mhm.
and Google, because Google has their satellites. And they work in conjunction with NASA, right?
Mhm.
So that's how they do the GPS and the mapping in Google Earth. So I'm glad you saved the screenshots because you actually have the real deal and not what they covered up with Google pixelation.
That's right. I will actually send you those images. I
Yeah.
took,
Yeah.
I think it was like 3 images that I took, and then I went ahead and made a collage by
Mm.
showing one image that had the city in it. It had satellites pointing up, and of course solar panels and such that I saw. And then I took the other one where the city had disappeared, and I haven't really released that to the public because I wanted to do more research on that just to make sure that I'm seeing what I'm seeing is accurate. Because I don't want to spread disinformation around either, right? So I need to
Um,
get my facts straight before I make them public.
are you aware that Google had done a bit of a spoof that they had somebody simulate a base near a crater?
I
And it with the solar panels and stuff. So I hope not that's not what you picked up, because they did a simulation and they said they didn't tell you people outright it was an April Fool's joke. They just put it as a base on Mars, that Google has a base on Mars, and everybody fell for it. And I'm like, haha, there's actually an ICC base a few kilometers away from the Google spoof
hmm
base. So when I looked at all of that, I'm like, that's not where that base is. It's on the other side, several kilometers away after the crater. So I just laughed when I saw that, and people are like, "There's no bases on Mars. Google just proved it." And
Google's full of shit.
yeah, exactly. And I said, there is a base. There is an ICC Mars base actually a few kilometers away from the crater on the other side, and it's on my map,
It's almost like
actually.
they're trying to tell you, but not really, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Tell you we have a
yeah.
base, but they're not giving you the actual location, and they're just like really right nearby kind of deal, right? Almost like
Yeah,
a joke for them.
yeah, it's like trying to discredit that there's no Mars bases on Mars when there actually is, and Google of all things. So, and they're the ones that are doing the cover up with the pixelation and the shadowing and whatnot. So I'm like, okay, well, you're one of the culprits that's doing it. That you do a spoof that you have a base on Mars. I'm like, that's the general disinformation disclosure. They want to put us off the scent of the real deal, so they do these kinds of stupid things
Yeah.
on the internet, and it still remains on the map to this day. If you look it up, if you use Google Maps to try to look at Mars, you see that stupid base there
hmm
that
So,
they created.
so we know that the TR3B is a reverse engineered spacecraft or an aircraft for that matter. It could be, for Earth or for space, the triangle-shaped craft that we see. Now, is that the technology that they're using to ferry back and forth to the moon and to Mars, or are they using something far more advanced than that?
Well, the SSP, the higher up levels of the factions, they don't use TR-3Bs. That's old, antiquated technology. The lower military industrial complex uses TR-6s now, not TR-3Bs. That's old technology from the 1960s and 80s. The TR-3B, that's old, that's outdated tech. They use the TR-6 now in higher up for the lower SSP factions, and they use beyond warp drive technology for the higher SSPs. So they don't, they experiment with using plasma for their engines, for plasma cores for engines. That exploded sometimes, so they use more exotic matter with crystalline technology to replace the warp drives. That's what they use in the higher up SSPs. That's what the ICC uses. Beyond speed of light technology, FTL, beyond the FTL drives, beyond speed of light. That's what they use in the ICC.
So when did the space program overcome the challenge of space radiation? Because we know, because one of the biggest fights so far for debunkers of the moon landing is that they've always said that if you go past the Van Allen belt, the radiation will get you, or you need a foot of lead all the way around your spacecraft in order for you to be protected. Obviously, they've overcome that challenge. About when did they get this done? And how did they get the technology? Is it ET technology that were given to us, or is it something that we've developed on our own?
Well, what I can tell you, the interplanetary corporate conglomerate they've learned how to build this out on their own through originally reverse engineering it from the ET stuff. But now, just like the Chinese can mimic everything we build, right? The same way. The ICC has learned from extraterrestrial technology how to create their own stuff. Drug serums for the radiation part, they give you a shot to inoculate you from radiation and you're good to go for a month or whatnot. And the ships, they have special alloy plating that's exotic matter components from different minerals that come from other planets. So it's alloy plating on the ships, so they don't break apart when you go beyond the Van Allen belt.
Is that the alloy that? Geez, I forgot his name now. I just had it in my mind. He was
Carbon 60.
He was one of the whistleblowers of Area 51. Mark something or rather. He was saying that they've received exotic alloys, even as of late in the news, like Tom DeLonge's disclosure package there. He is saying that we have exotic alloys.
Yeah, we do.
Is that something that we've been working with, or is that something we've had for a very long time, and then now they're beginning to release that information?
Oh, we've had it for a very long time, and they worked for a very long time. That's what the ICC gives a lot of its time to do. They build advanced tech that includes working with exotic alloy matter, exotic warp drive technology. Crystalline technology is used quite a bit in the ICC, going beyond the FTL engine drives. If you go back to Star Trek, what did they use for their warp drives? Crystalline technology.
I was going to say plasma, but I'm thinking about Captain Kirk.
Yeah, no, plasma, the ICC discovered that plasma is not very stable going beyond the speed of light. It's not stable tech. It can explode. If it's not handled correctly, it can explode your ship. So that's not, same for weapons. They don't really use plasma anymore for their phaser laser tech. Some of the older ships do have it, plasma warp drives, but it's crystalline based technology now. And, like gold, mercury, that kind of stuff they experiment with as well to build hybrid warp drive systems. So plasma is like, it's old school.
The whistleblower that I was talking about just came to my mind. It's Bob Lazar.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with his work and what he did?
Yeah. I'm somewhat familiar. He has his own shop now that creates chemicals.
Hmm.
So somebody tried to debunk him as a fake, and he did some prison time, I believe, or something along those lines.
Yeah, I'm not sure. His life was definitely ruined though
Yeah,
when he came out and he explained about what's going on at Area 51.
yeah.
Area 51 seems to be the launching platform for really all of this secret space program, military industrial corporate complex, and all that. So uh,
Um,
they've uh, they've got a lot of stuff going on there.
yeah, they do, but it's not the main SSP hub. That's off planet, really. That's Mars. That's Mars.
Now, you said
Um,
that there were several different civilizations living on Mars, some underground, some above. The native species of Mars. Now, the natives of Mars, are they humans like us, or are they humanoids?
they're human. They're predominantly human. They're much taller, and they have golden skin.
I kind of
Their
figured.
skin tone is much darker. Some of it is lighter, depending on which genetic biological group they belong to. Because there's several of the original Mars colonists. There's also the reptilian species, some various reptilians that were native to Earth and Mars. They're still there. They say also ant people. I don't know about that.
I hope you talk about the ant people, the
Yeah, yeah,
scientists that came down and helped them go underground to survive
yeah, yeah.
the
Well,
cataclysmic that was going to happen here.
yes, yeah. So I've heard some SSP experiencers or insiders say that people live on Mars. I know the mantids live on Mars, that's for sure. There's
Hmm.
mantid colonies, there's some reptilian colonies, predominantly the original humanoids that were on Mars that survived the cataclysm and the nuclear war. They
Hmm.
survived when underground built, they had already underground facilities built out, not just the cities on the surface of Mars, which most of it was destroyed, but they built out their own underground facilities and they moved to those facilities prior to the catastrophe and even more after the
Hmm.
catastrophe. But the ICC, they want to displace those Mars colonists off planet and put them on those damn orbital space station platforms that they have.
Now, I've got a question here from Sherry Putnam. It's a very simple question. She's asking,
Mm-hmm.
is Mars cloaked? Is cloaked to us?
Well, the facilities are cloaked, the dome shaped, the domes have the ability to deflect light spectrums
Hmm.
to prevent the satellites from seeing the bases. Yes, they have cloaking technology, but they're not cloaking the whole planet, just the facilities. But extraterrestrials, on the other hand, some of them actually cloak complete planets because they don't want to be discovered at all. They don't want to have any type of interaction with other extraterrestrial species, so they cloak their own planets.
Okay, that makes sense. Makes a
Mm-hmm.
lot of sense. Now, before I jump on to my next question, this personal question that I have,
Mm-hmm.
um, the humanoids, the humans on Mars, the original inhabitants of Mars, do you know if they have elongated craniums, like the Paracas skulls that we find
No,
in
no,
Peru?
no, they don't. They are very tall, and they're taller than us.
Hmm.
So, and they're very intelligent, but no, their craniums are not elongated. That's a bit of a different species, humanoid species that was here on Earth, a civilization that was here on Earth.
Hmm.
Extraterrestrial hybrid human bred, sorry, I said humid. Sorry about that. Extraterrestrial human hybrids. They were bred that way.
Hmm.
That's actually a species with the elongated skulls, the craniums that were one of the experiments living on Earth.
Now, the war that you're talking about on Mars, had to have been a galactic war. Now we see two major scars on two different planets. One is on Mars, the Marianas Trench, I believe
Mm-hmm.
is called,
Yes.
or
Yeah.
something. And then over here
Yes.
in on Earth, we have the Grand Canyon, which looks similar. Now the our so-called scientists here on Earth, they've said that a river channel carved out the entire Grand Canyon. So I've always thought about that. It's like, well, how come then every single river in the world isn't a Grand Canyon? Now, is that the impact from the weapons that may have been used? First of all, it's a two-sided question. Now, the war
Mm-hmm.
that happened, was that between Mars and Earth? Because we see the same type of damage that's done like the Grand Canyon and the Marianas Trench. Some
Mm-hmm.
sort of, I'm thinking, an energy weapon of sorts that
Yeah.
stripped
Yeah.
away the
Atmosphere.
atmosphere of
Half
Mars.
of the atmosphere. Half
Yeah.
of it. Not all of it. Um, It was actually several different species that were attacking Earth and Mars. There was infighting on Mars itself,
Uh-huh.
but actually it was other species off-world that did the damage. It wasn't primary infighting between Earth and Mars itself, no. It was other species that were wanting resources from both planets.
Uh-huh.
And then when they were told no, they resorted to other means to get what they wanted. And in the process, creating the damage to Mars, the Marianas Trench, and what you said about Earth, the
Grand Canyon.
the Grand Canyon, yeah. So it's not natural scarring that's supposedly done by water erosion. It's not.
Yeah.
It's from laser-based weapons being used off-planet to blast specific locations on the planet. If you think about it, the most likely example, the fires, okay, the fires that attacked California
Uh-huh.
where something just combusted without the tree itself burning down. What do you
Uh-huh.
think that technology is? What do you think was used?
Well, from what I've seen, at first I dismissed the idea altogether, and then when I began researching it, because a few friends of mine they encouraged me to research it,
Mm-hmm.
and while I was researching, and also there were some images that were put out by Independent Research Society where they were showing green lasers coming down that were captured. I believe one was green and the other was red, that caused the fires.
Mm-hmm. There you go. There you go. Similar technology, but on a larger scale to create mass scarring of planetoids.
So, is that something that you think that they're trying to achieve, and this was just a test here just a few months ago in California, and I believe in Michigan as well that this happened?
Oh, they've already achieved that technology like 50 years ago. That's child's play. This was just test runs to create some chaos and havoc to distract us from what really is going on
Mm-hmm.
and what they're doing operations here on Earth. That was just a little blast compared to what they really can do. If they want, they can destroy this whole planet. Oh, you know that Star Trek reference, the Xindi, right? Where
Yeah.
the Xindi destroyed, scarred half of Earth.
Mm-hmm.
The secret space programs have that technology. The reptilians have it. That's technology that's been around for quite a while now.
It seems like Gene Roddenberry and Star Trek in itself. Well, we know that Star Trek has been a huge player in the lot of technology that we see today, like the MP4 player,
Mm-hmm.
our phones, the media libraries, and kind of what have you. So in Star Trek, they continuously seem to show us of this futuristic based technology that they're working with is a reality, and they're just piecing us off like a little bit at a time, making us think that this is all sci-fi.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's disclosure in plain sight, an open sight, designed to make people believe that at some point in the distant future, this will be a possibility. But off-world, this has already been done. the former head of Lockheed Martin, right? I don't remember his name, but
I can't recall his name, no.
Yeah, it doesn't matter the name, but he said, we have the technology to take ET home and beyond that, beyond Star Trek stuff. He said that they have this tech already. And this was former CEO of Lockheed Martin. So for somebody to say that we have the technology to take ET home and beyond even Star Trek technology. So what does that say? And that was openly said. It's all over social media, all over the news, all over. People are like, really? You have to question, people question what that CEO said. Is that real or not? It is real. The tech is there. It's just being withheld from us normal working Joe schmoes.
Are you talking about Robert Stevens? I believe is his name. He's the former CEO of Lockheed.
I don't remember like I said, I don't remember the name of the guy. Perhaps it was. Like, I'd have to look it up again, but I remember reading an article in alternative media. I believe I was reading Stillness in the Storm, actually. And that's what the former CEO of Lockheed Martin said. We have the tech to take ET home and beyond Star Trek.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard that once before, but I just can't remember when or where. But when you said that, it kind of rang a bell in my head. It's like, oh, yeah, I've heard that before. Because, of course, you go home, you can never forget that line, right?
Yeah. And taking ET home, the interplanetary corporate conglomerate has that down pat. They have the Star Trek technology, even beyond that. There's a faction of the secret space programs that nobody talks about. Nobody. It's the time corporations, and they've been around since the 1800s in these secret societies. If you watch the TV movie Tomb Raider, if you watch the TV series The Continuum, where it has time travel, technology, and aspects involved, if there's also Assassin's Creed, there's that movie, 2 of them. They disclose these secret societies. That's where the time corporations came out of, these secret societies who control time travel. That's actually real. They provide all these SSP factions with the time travel tech. And I've tried telling people numerous times, the time corporations are doing this. They're behind all of it. They're worse than the cabal. They're worse than the SSP. And yet they fix timeline incursions. They fix disasters so this planet does not explode, or we don't go off track and destroy ourselves. They fix that, yet they give the secret space programs the time travel technology. In my eyes, they're bad for doing this. I don't know what the motive is to provide the tech for the SSPs, because that enables those factions to cause havoc out in space and on humanity. The secret
not only
space
that, but it could be they may, everything, all the technology that we've created or all the technology that we've come across, they weaponized it in one way or another. So time travel technology, they could go back in time and try to mess with the timeline here, or go in the future and try to prevent something or do something themselves that can cause major consequences for humanity and possibly even beyond.
Yeah, well, the time corporations actually fix these kinds of issues, but they provide the technology for the SSPs. So in a way, they enable them to cause havoc and trouble, but yet they fix the problems that these factions create. I don't get, why would you give the technology out if you know what it do, the problems that it could cause, right? So why would these time corporations give it out in the first place? And then go and fix the problems that this stuff creates when it's given to the factions, the time travel stuff. I don't get why they do it, but this group exists. It's I believe it's number 6 in the factions. Nobody talks about it, but I remember seeing this technology and it being provided to the ICC, the time travel, which makes the 60 and back possible, right? When you have 2 timelines where you're on the human one where you're doing your everyday Joe Schmo business, then you have the 60 and back timeline concurrently happening. That's the time corporations doing this. So in the Continuum TV show it talks about the corporations out of Canada, of all places, that this time travel corporations were in Canada.
Where are they located in Canada? Do you know?
Vancouver, of all places. Can you?
No shit. That's just not too far from me.
Yeah, and me too. I'm like an hour away. It takes place. The setting is Vancouver, BC, where they shot Continuum. It's us here in Canada, so it's like, I'm like, disclosure right in my own backyard.
Yeah.
happy times, and the smart suit technology, which makes you invisible, protects you from deflects bullet fire, right?
Oh, yes.
That was featured in Continuum from the future timeline, where the time cop went back into the past to try to stop the corporations and the time terrorists.
We just recently saw that technology, I believe, here on Facebook. A couple of months back, there was a video going around of this Japanese scientist, I believe it was, and he created some sort of a cloth that he had in front of him, and he would be invisible. Is that something that's connected to this smart suit, or that's something that's totally different?
Well, that's the beginnings of building the scratch, building the smart suits. It's deflective material, right? They use nanotechnology, the ICC, that particular faction which I was in, they use nanotechnology to interweave that into the fabric of the suits. That's what makes you cloaked. That's what makes you be able to walk through solid matter walls, right? It keeps you healthy. And even what these smart suits do, they control your bio waste so you don't poop or pee into your smart suit. You don't go to the bathroom while you're wearing the dang thing, and it's silver. The ones that I saw were silver. You'd put it on, you'd be naked, you'd put it on, it would adhere to your skin. So a silverish, dark silver, and it felt like clothing. It could mimic clothing. It could mimic any type of texture in fabric or metal even. It could change it could change you on a molecular scale. So just imagine not having to go to the bathroom. That's incredible. Imagine being able to shield yourself so you're cloaked. Imagine it deflecting bullets so it doesn't kill you. It interacts psychically on a psychic level with you. You tell it what to do, and that's what it does. You give it thought programming. And some of it... Yeah, and it was featured in Continuum. And if you look at Messages from a Star Traveler, I've just plastered everything I know about the stuff into posts.
This takes us back to Star Trek again.
Yes.
To Star Trek Voyager, where Tom, he was wearing a suit, and he had a spaceship, and that suit was connected to the spaceship. And then when he wore that suit, he just simply had to think about what he wanted the spaceship to do, and it did.
Yeah, it had a female sentience.
That's right. Yeah.
Connected to the spacecraft. I'd forgotten all about that. I'd watched that episode, a long time ago. I'd forgotten completely. I was using the ICC references of those suits. But even the one where Tom was in, that suit was bulky. This thing mimics clothing. Like it mimics a cat suit, like you're wearing a jumpsuit of some sort, right? It could even change shape or form, how it fits into a person, individualized to a person wearing it, and it mimics clothing. So it could change shape to mimic a dress, to mimic pants, whatever shape, style, color that thing can do, because it has nanotechnology interwoven into the suit to the point where it can change your molecular structure. So you don't have to go to the bathroom. Can I use an example?
Sure.
The ISS, right? The International Space Station. And when they do spacewalks to fix something, right? The astronauts, when they're wearing the astronaut suit, they still wear diapers to this day. When I looked at Wikipedia, they have a diaper attached. So if they do something, the diaper absorbs it. I was shocked. They have pads and diapers. I was shocked. And when they go to the bathroom, they have to strap themselves in to the toilet and attach tubes in order to remove the solid waste you make.
Mm-hmm.
or it goes into a bag and it
Yeah.
zips itself up for the poop.
Yeah.
And I was shocked by this. I had no idea that's how it works on the ISS. I thought they wore those smart suits.
Why are they not providing this technology to the ISS? Are they keeping them in the dark too, or is
Yes, they
that just
are. Yeah,
CGI?
they are
Like,
keeping them because
like
that's
the blue screen and the green screen that
yes.
we've all become familiar with. Is the space station even real? Is
It's
it put up
real. No,
there or?
it's completely real. The ISS is real. It's old and antiquated,
Hmm.
but they're still keeping it nuts and bolts running. Is pretty much real. It does not compare to the ICC space station or orbital platforms because they have communications arrays. They have weaponry defense.
Hmm.
They have shields to make them invisible, and they have beyond FTL flight capability. They can change orbits around different planets. They're movable. So the ISS just stays in orbit of Earth. But the thing that shocked me when I read on Wikipedia and other sites that the astronauts still have to wear a damn diaper when they go on a spacewalk because the suits that they wear are just normal, standard, protects you from radiation, gives you oxygen
Hmm.
and communications. It doesn't do anything else. I was shocked.
I'm
I
actually quite shocked too because you figure since the 60s we've been up there, so now
yeah,
like 50 years,
yeah,
60 years we've been up there, and we're still using the same old spacesuit that we sent
yes,
that the Russians sent the chimpanzee Sam, I believe his name was, that they sent up in
yeah,
space. He wore
I,
the exactly the same suit
yeah, yeah,
that our astronauts and cosmonauts even that wear.
yeah. Have you heard of Emery Smith?
No, I have not.
So Emery Smith is associated with Cosmic Disclosure Show, and he's actually disclosed the smart suits that he's worn one that he knows of a lab on Earth that makes them. They gave it to him to test drive to see how it works, and he said that this smart suit it collects bio waste. It prevents you from making bio waste products while you're wearing it. 7-day wear suit, and he called it a smart suit. Now, I talked about this in 2016, and people were calling me cuckoo, crazy. Like, what are you talking about? These smart suits. I've been saying to people, well, I told you so, and now somebody else has said it too. For me, I just smiled when I heard this. A friend of mine told me about Emery online, and I haven't watched Cosmic Disclosure for a while because I just don't want to be associated with that whistleblower. But I did. I just watched it for the Emery Smith episodes because he talked about those smart suits, and I'm like, dang, you just described exactly what I've been saying about the ICC smart suits. And Emery claims that these are made on Earth by some lab who wants to give this out to humanity at some point and to police stations without the bells and whistles, just deflecting the bullet stuff.
Yeah.
So I think Emery Smith is genuine in what he's telling us, but because it's associated with the whistleblower who's a co-host of the show, it still kind of, being careful. But there's another person who's talked about the smart suits. It's in TV shows too. TV shows, it's in movies. It's so I wouldn't. I think that would be the first tech we'd get for the police force, the smart suit.
That'd be fine to have on a Friday night when you go to the bar.
Yeah.
Thought I'd toss a joke in there. You got to keep one thing in mind is that when you're talking and new ideas are coming forth and new information is coming forth and people that don't understand and that have been assimilated as a Chappelle, of course they're always going to call you a cuckoo and they're going to call you a nutcase because that's what they're designed to do, right? I get called that all the time.
Yeah.
Pseudoscience, conspiracy, what have you, to try to discredit the person, right? Now, I've got a comment and / a question, I believe, on the chat here. It's from the Independent Research Society, Jeff Boyd. He states and is asking, are you familiar with Bill H.R. 1508, the Space Exploration and Utilization Act, keeping them from any liability of actions before 2022? Makes no sense if no one is there mining. And then he wrote Ben Rich.
Well, I know the act was Obama, I believe, put this in place right before his term in office ended, that which gives these corporations mining, right, who go out to mine in space, that they don't have to answer to anybody about how they treat their employees. And there's no oversight according to that new law. But the thing you have to keep in mind is that there's already, the ICC does mining. Mm-hmm. They've done mining of Mars. They've done mining of asteroids, other planets and whatnot. It's already being done, but without oversight. If it's kept a secret, there's no oversight for it. So they can do whatever they want. Okay, have you watched The Expanse?
No, I rarely watch TV.
Oh, yeah, I don't either. I watched it online through digital streaming. And the way they treat the belters, because this takes place 200 years into Earth's and Mars' future, there's also the belters who are out in space mining ore and other precious metals and minerals, right? From asteroids and meteorites and et cetera, they've like built space stations around asteroids, meteors, whatnot to mine this stuff. And they're treated horribly. The living conditions that the belters were in were horrid. So this is similar to that crappy law that's come out in terms of space proprietary space mining and whatnot, the colonization of space, that these corporations are not obligated to follow Earth law out in space.
Are they practicing the Admiralty law out in space instead?
I'm not sure what Admiralty law is. If you could explain it to me.
Or like maritime law. What happens out at sea stays out at sea, kind of deal.
Yeah, exactly. The pirates.
Yeah.
The pirate stuff. Yeah. Yes. Unfortunately, yes. There's no oversight. People are abused. People are mistreated. It's horrid. It's horrid what they do out in space. And this has all been hidden from us. We've been brainwashed to believe that we're limited only to the ISS and to going to the moon when we've gone beyond the ISS and the moon. We've been to Mars. We've been other places beyond the Van Allen belt. We've mined asteroids, meteorites, comets. It's all been mined and done, and it's all beyond even Star Trek now.
So let me ask you this. Recently, over the past couple of years, there's been a effort from who knows who these people are, mostly NASA, where they want to send humans on a one-way ticket to Mars to go and colonize it, and they're looking for I believe like 200 people that are willing to go to Mars and then never return. What do you think that's all about?
Distraction.
Where will they put them once they get there? If there's an entire civilization living on Mars, how will they explain this to these people that are going to go colonize? Or are they going to put them in like some remote area on the planet and tell them that they're just there by themselves and that's it?
You got it. Or they'll put them in some kind of a military base, right, and mind wipe them with the age regression technology.
Possibly use them as slave labor.
Yes.
Like you were saying earlier that they were going to live in horrid conditions, and that's what they may use them for.
Remember Men in Black?
Yeah.
They had those pens
where
they put it in front of you. You were never here. You don't remember us. Click, and you're mind wiped.
Yeah.
Just wiping your memory of what happened to you because you saw something you shouldn't see. You saw aliens, or you saw secret technology. Men in Black is a great example of the secret space programs. They have the tech to press the button and make you forget everything that you're not supposed to see or have seen and not supposed to know about and disclose. They have that tech to do that. Men in Black is the best reference I could think of.
Or maybe have their memories removed from Earth, so when they get to Mars, they have no prior memory, and
Yeah.
so that way they're not going to really ask any questions. It'll be something natural.
Yeah, like put them in a remote place on Mars where there's no bases and no ETs, because we still have places on Earth that are remote, where they could do training and stuff. So they could do that on Mars, or they could stick them on bases or colonies, make them do work, whatever, and then just mind wipe them after and say, okay, well, now they've inhabited Mars and it's all peachy.
Yeah,
And
if you're on a
okie-doke.
one-way ticket to Mars, you're really under the mercy of the overseer of Mars. They can do really whatever they want to you because you no longer fall under the Human Rights Act because you're not on Earth, and
Yeah.
you're never going back because they've
No.
already told you that you're on a one-way ticket. So once you get there, you're under their under their control. They can
Yeah.
do whatever they want.
Yeah, and I've been asked this question. Well, if you had the opportunity to go and explore the moon or Mars, would you take it? I'm like, been there, done that, don't want to do it. I don't want to be at those higher elevations. I prefer to be by the ocean on a nice planet Earth where there's enough water, still enough resources. I don't want to be living on a planet that's hasn't been yet fully terraformed to bring it back to what it's supposed to be. Like, why would I want to be stuck on those bases again? I don't. So I tell people that's a reality I've already had. In a 16 back, I don't want that. And these people are people who haven't heard about the space program. They ask me, like you were saying, remember, they think I'm a quack. And they say, well, can you explain what a 16 back is and what the heck you're talking about? And that gives me a very nice, perfect open door to start talking about all of this. And people are like, wow.
So in the life of someone who's on a military base off world, what would their daily routine be like?
You wake up, you put on your jumpsuit uniform, you eat, you do your business in the bathroom, you go to your 12-hour job, you do that, you
What do you do on your 12-hour job? Like what would like your tasks and duties be?
They put me in communications, basically just logging information, incoming data from other ships, incoming data from personnel about mission stuff. They had me do input data into communications in different databases and monitor communications. They had me do linguistic work dealing with other ETs who would come in for trades, negotiations, study their language, their culture, mannerisms, whatever information I could get, put it into the database, and they stuck me in the cybernetics labs being body parts quality control technician to make sure the body parts were quality to splice with the cybernetic technology to make the cyborgs. Goodness, whatever I'm good at, they'd make me do.
Far out. I don't think I would. I don't think I would want that myself. Now,
That's how I know about the smart suits and the holographic medical pods and the age regression, by being stuck in that cybernetic lab, one of the labs attached to a base.
now, there's probably questions that are running through some viewers' minds here. There's a big history with the Anunnaki here on this planet, and it's been suggested that they came here, some 450,000 years ago to created humans to mine gold, and Mars was one of their way stations. What's your thought on that?
Truly, when you say Anunnaki, that makes me want to frown. I think that's true in some form, what you just said, but I think there's a lot of disinformation about who the Anunnaki were, where they came from. I don't even want to discuss that topic. I don't care to speculate. I think the Anunnaki were a bunch of humanoid type extraterrestrials who did want to mine gold and other resources, and perhaps they had a way station on Mars or an Earth orbit or on Earth, and they took the Sumerians and they modified their genetics and they took primates maybe. I really don't care to speculate about any of it. I think there might have been a group of different extraterrestrials that were called the Anunnaki and they did some of that, but I really am not sure, and I don't want to speculate on it.
Now, during your time with the secret space program, besides the moon and Mars, what other places did you get to travel to?
Pluto and outside of the solar system, and there's a what there is, they have a Star Gateway trading portal beside Jupiter and a space station there. So I've heard other experiencers talk about Jupiter and the space station they've been on. I was primarily Mars, the ICC Mars basis, and their ICC space orbital station platforms. Those were the two places where I was on a regular basis for my 60 and back, and some off-world stuff. Pluto, I know they have science labs on Pluto. Venus has also different outposts, ancient builder race technology and outposts. That's where I was taken, but that wasn't with the ICC. That was with ETs that call themselves the L. They claim they're EL, not elves. EL. They claim to be descendants of the ancient builder race, and I had contact with a woman named Ania, who said she's my ET cousin. And she took me to some of the outposts on Venus that they have of their cities there and outposts. That was interesting. And again, you have to have particular genetic coding just to get into these outposts of your, ET coding. If you have some ET DNA and you can open the outpost, you can get in, have a look around. And that was interesting. But again, I have to question all of these extraterrestrial experiences because any of this could be mind manipulation technology, like holographic inserts into your brain to make you think you're having these experiences. So I have to question all of this, especially the extraterrestrial contact experiences. The ICC stuff, I think that's predominantly real, what happened on Mars to me, but I still question all of it too. The degree how real it was, because it could have been a simulation. So I have to, that's a caveat I always say. There is mind control and manipulation involved with all of these SSP programs, factions with the ET contact, the ET abductions. Nothing is really as it really seems, even your memories. So, I even question my own memory recall of everything. I sift for hours trying to figure out, was this factually real or is this somehow controlled? So just to put that out there, take everything with a grain of salt. Even what's going on here on this planet, what people tell you. Seriously.
Now we know that there is a hexagon on the northern part of Venus. Could you tell us the purpose of that hexagon?
I really don't know. What I've seen, I know they have block style buildings that they've built out on Venus, and the cities that I know of are like metropolises. They're not simple hexagons, so I don't know about the hexagon. What I saw was really like pyramid shaped, like obelisk pyramid shaped, the AT stuff that's on there. And there's other cities that are not extraterrestrial, because they also have Venus colonists that live underground, from what I remember of history there. So the cities on the surface are abandoned because some kind of a cataclysm or catastrophe happened there as well. So I know that they're living underground. There's colonists living underground, and from what I've met, who I've met, they have light blue skin. So it's different from the Mars, but they're humanoid as well. Humanoid beings living on Venus, colonists of Venus that survived catastrophe. They said it was more of a natural one, but I'm not sure. But they have a lot of buildings on Venus, that's for sure, on the surface and underground. And there's different types. So it's not just one civilization, cities, different types over, you know, the span of history of what went there as well, what went down on that planet. So when you're talking about the hexagon, right, are you talking about that, what is the term? Hobbyist?
No, it's the hexagon
Astronomer.
on the northern pole of Venus that encompasses pretty much the entire top of the planet, and they're very sharp right-angle lines. If it was wind, you figure they would be more circular, but these are very straight, very 90 degree cut lines, and it looks like a hexagon. Some people have said that that may be a portal or a stargate of some sort.
Maybe. I mean, there's a hobbyist, now I remembered the term, hobbyist astronomer, who actually mapped out Venus and discovered these megalithic structures. So, and he claims they're cities, and he's actually drawn models, 3D models of it, and gone beyond the 3D into physical models of these cities. I know about that. And he was a year and a half ago, he was doing that. And I'd done a remote reviewing of Venus. So I saw the more metropolis cities covered with domes and electromagnetic fields. That's what I saw. But I also included the hobbyist astronomer's information in what he mapped out of those cities, supposed cities, because it's quite similar to what I remote viewed, but more technological. So from what I know about Venus, there are cities there. There is advanced technology there. They have the domes as well. So if it's a Stargate way portal, a portal technology, that's quite possible in the hexagon. I wouldn't say it's not beyond the realm of it being there, because there's stuff there. There's cities there on the surface and underground, and there's actually beings living on Venus.
Wow, amazing. I had no idea about that at all. Now, my research and other people, they've shown that if you are an abductee, that usually 80% of abductees are women. And if you've been abducted, then that means that your mom will have been abducted, your grandmother, your auntie, possibly your sister, or your daughter. Is there any truth to that, or is it just something random and just depends on your genetic makeup?
It depends on your genetic makeup. That's what I fully believe. I don't have any stories about my mother, my grandmother, my auntie being abducted. My dad, no. Other than me, nobody's been abducted in my family. From what I know about our history, what I do know about is that recently I've been studying health issues of women who've been abducted. And the predominant issue is that these women who've been abducted have autoimmune disorders of one form or another. 3 different sources, especially the reptilians, for some reason, they're the worst for creating autoimmune issues.
Can you elaborate that for us?
Sure. I have Hashimoto's encephalitis. And I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is a thyroid autoimmune disorder, and it's created havoc on my health, on my female health, in terms of hormones. I'm on thyroid medication, and I'm also asking for IVIG intravenous and immunoglobulin shots every couple of months to try to fix my autoimmune issue. That's what I'm doing. But Eve Lorgen, one of her proteges, it's a man, he was doing hypnosis regression on women. And he predominantly found that they were doing some kind of genetic experiments on women, or even the ET encounter itself was so traumatic that it would cause autoimmune issues for women, autoimmune disorders of various forms.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's the thyroid, because what I remember is the reptilians modifying my autoimmune system and ruining it. And then I have thyroid problems. So I remember the reptilians infecting me with nanotechnology, nanite, I call it nanite nanotechnology, going into my bloodstream and ripping my autoimmune to shreds. To this day, when I was an adolescent, right, after the age of 13, I started having problems with my autoimmune system. And I was abducted from the age of 2 to 10. So this nanotech wreaked havoc on my body to the point where I had to have my uterus removed.
Awful.
Because most of that tech was in my uterus. And after that, things got a lot better, and now I have to do the autoimmune therapy. And other women have said that ET abductees, women have said that they have a lot of autoimmune issues that are not explainable. One minute they're all healthy right before the abductions, and the next they have autoimmune disorders. So I actually saved all that documentation and highlighted the information. People have vitamin deficiencies as well after abductions. So a lot of health stuff. I know that some
What about like chronic headaches?
Yes, that too. Yeah, I have chronic headaches. That is commonplace with autoimmune disorders and vitamin deficiencies after abductions. Because sometimes the experiences are very pleasant and loving and healing with the benevolent extraterrestrials, and sometimes it's very traumatic and disturbing if it's with negative-based extraterrestrials.
It really depends on who's taking you.
Yes, that too depends on who's taking you. Now, I've had some good extraterrestrial experiences, and I've had some very bad ones from childhood especially. So I'd say I was not familiar that there's autoimmune issues and mineral deficiencies and vitamin deficiencies after abductions. But because my health wasn't getting any better, I decided to look into the abduction phenomenon, because I knew about the reptilians abducting me, right? So I looked into the phenomenon. I'm like, well, that explains quite a bit. Without autoimmune issues that I have, mine is thyroid. Others there's like 50 autoimmune diseases that can be caused.
Might this be related to the animal mutilations that we see here on Earth, where we find cows and lambs and such? They're missing parts of their body, the eyes, the tongue, sometimes their innards, and it looks like a laser would have made the incision and removed the part because there's no blood, and the wound is cauterized effectively, like immediately.
Yeah, it could be, but the thing is, there's speculation now that the military did this. The space military did all of this, again, to throw us off track.
Yeah.
That it wasn't really extraterrestrials that were doing it. It's something else to keep us busy finding the cause of something, chasing windmills, so to say, so to speak. It could be ET related. It could be, but if they're really advanced and if they have access to beaming up animals and stuff, why leave the innards of the cow? Why leave it all behind? Like, if they want to cover themselves up that they took animals and stuff, why not just beam the whole thing up and do your experiment there and just dematerialize the animal after you've taken what you want and recycle, just dematerialize it so it's gone on the ship.
The first known written evidence of this goes back to, I believe, about 1600, where a farmer had reported his lambs being dismembered and just being left in the field.
Well, if I was a civilized extraterrestrial species doing research, right, and experiments on animals, I just beam up the whole thing and don't leave the evidence behind. It might be not a very civilized extraterrestrial species doing this, that are sloppy. Because
Yeah.
you have those too. You don't have there's the advanced ET species and there's not so advanced ones
Yeah.
that really don't care about human rights, animals, whatever, cruelty. They just take what they want and leave behind the rest. So I would speculate that it's not a very advanced
Yeah.
extraterrestrial species doing this, because the ones that are advanced and doing studies and experiments, they don't leave behind parts of animals or anything. They take the whole thing, take out the parts on the ship that they want, and then they dematerialize the cow, the lamb, the whatnot,
Hmm.
and store the parts for later use, cryo storage and cryo suspension, right? That's what they do, the advanced ones. The other ones, probably that's what the species were not so advanced in
They would
carrying
have
them
to
out.
be extremely benevolent as well. Okay.
Well, I don't know about the benevolent part, because most of them are not so benevolent. The majority of the ones that are doing their experimentation,
Yeah.
they're not benevolent. And I guess they're sloppy as well. If they leave behind cows, mutilated cows and stuff, they're
Yeah.
sloppy. Even
All
the
right.
ICC doesn't leave evidence of what they do of their abductions.
So why do they bring people back? Like when they abduct someone, why bring them back? Why not just simply just keep them?
The law of karma states that if you were born on Earth,
Hmm.
you must be returned to have a somewhat normal life. Even though that's not true, you're very traumatized after coming back from these programs, and your health is damaged. Most of us have damaged health, disabilities, whatnot, to some degree or other when we're returned from being an asset in any of these factions. But the natural laws of the universe state that a human being must be able to have a chance to have a normal life. So they take us, they do with us what they want in these programs, and we're returned. Just like people who are abducted by extraterrestrials are most likely always returned.
Hmm.
This particular universe we're in, this matrix, has natural laws of the universe where somebody must have a life, must be given a chance to have a somewhat normal life. That's the caveat. You can take somebody, you can do experiments with them, you can put them in these programs, you can abduct them by extraterrestrials, but you must put that person back into their life. Always put them back. You can't have them forever. Put them back. That's how it is. Same with example, Star Trek, the
Yeah.
non-interference clause, right?
That's right. The Prime Directive, I believe it's called.
Yes, the
Yeah.
Prime Directive. Sometimes Prime Directive was misused,
Hmm.
right? Stuff happens, right? But then you have to return the person back to their life without the memories of what happened to them, because you can't interfere with them. Same with these groups, the SSPs, the extraterrestrials. The Prime Directive exists, at least for the normal advanced extraterrestrials who are benevolent. They're not to interfere with us. They can observe us, watch us, grow and evolve, but they can't interfere. Other groups interfere, but then they do the brain wipe, the blank slating, return you back to your life like nothing ever happened. And unfortunately, blank slating doesn't work on everyone. Eventually, they remember what happened to them, and they're like, oh, well, now what do I do with all of this? If I talk,
Hypnosis is the one angle that you can always find out what happened to you.
yeah, hypnosis. Yeah, for me, I chose to actually study shamanism and do it through somewhat organic past life regression with hybridized hypnosis. Because I could never find a good hypnosis practitioner. I did my QHHT with someone here in near Vancouver, and I wasn't quite satisfied with it, so I had to learn it on my own to do it for myself. Not QHHT per se, but something else. Because I was just not satisfied with the session, how it went. Information was valuable, but not how the session was done. So if you can't find somebody to help you do it yourself. That's the best methodology I can think of.
All right, very cool. Thank you for your time here today,
Mm-hmm.
Ileana. Or Ileana. We are hitting 2 hours here all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden. I didn't even see that go by. So before we end our stream here, if people want to get a hold of you, if they want to talk to you, if they have any questions for you, where can they get a hold of you?
On my website, Messages from a Star Traveler and Awakening Cosmic Reality Show on YouTube, or you could just Facebook me on, again, I have Messages from a Star Traveler Facebook page, my website, and my show online.
Ileana, the Star Traveler, thank you very
Yes.
much. Really appreciate your time here this afternoon. And we should definitely do this again because, like you were saying earlier, we're not going to hit everything all at once. So I wanted to try to keep this talk as broad as possible so that we can, kind of touch base on just small topics all over the place. But definitely would love to have you back and really next time concentrate on a single subject and a single area that we can really dig into and get information from that. So looking forward to doing that with you again. And,
Sure.
And it's been very interesting. I heard some stuff here today that I did hear in the past, but it wasn't really solidified in my mind. You would really have to take it from a number of different sources. And when different people are saying the same thing again and again and again and again, then there has to be some merit to that. So
Yeah.
I want to thank you for clearing some things up in my own mind, and I'm sure with our audience as well.
Well, thank you. And keep in mind, I come from a background research of a 2-year background research where I was trained to do research and trained to back up verifiable sources. And I was trained to think logically and scientifically about research and research methodology because I worked for a research facility. So for me, going outside the logical, the scientific, to the woo-woo, to the paranormal, to the SSP stuff, to the ufology, it's been a transition, and still keeping trying to keep the logic and the verification process, blending all of that together. It's a different viewpoint that I have now, but still doing the research and still putting in the effort. Okay, I talk about my experiences. I can't provide you with physical photographs or video and audio because these programs don't allow you to do that. They don't allow you to bring any devices and take pictures of the smart suits. I provide image likenesses, image references from the internet. That's the best I can do. Because I don't want to be killed. I don't want to be pursued. I don't want to be kept tabs of. These programs do that. And if you sneak something out, like images or video, audio, they'll kill you for it, or they'll take you. You're done. Yeah. They'll take you, never bring you back to Earth. So the best I can do is images from the internet. And people say, well, that's not proof for anything. That's the best I can do to show you what this looks like.
That's right. But not only that, let me add to that. Like I was just saying earlier, I've heard this in the past and from other speakers as well, where they've said the same thing as what you're saying. And that really clarifies for me as to the credibility of my previous guests and the credibility of you as well, because you guys are all saying the same thing. So, that's kind of what you have to do. You can't provide us with videos. You can't provide us with pictures because that's going to be extremely dangerous to you and your family, because not only are they going to kill you, but they'll probably kill your family too, because you showed it to them, right? So exactly. That's one thing that everybody needs to keep in mind, instead of saying, oh, no, that's shit, that's garbage, blah blah blah. No, you have to go back and you have to listen to other people and then come back and cross-reference everything and then make up your own mind, saying, okay, well, this person said this person said that, this person said this, so there has to be some merit to it.
And also, though, the thing is, I've learned that your audience, your guests probably aren't mainstream alternative guests.
That's right. More not on the fringe side.
Yeah, the fringe side. Yeah, exactly. Those are the ones that are on the fringe who anyone listens to the least. Those people are the more credible ones than the more mainstream alternative media personalities, like certain whistleblower that I know. But he's promoted somebody else who was on Quiet Insider on the fringes now coming forward, and that person dovetailed perfectly information that I've been disclosing since 2016. So the guests that are on the fringe, on the outside the most, are the most credible ones that I find, at least.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about that on our next show, the
Yeah,
whistleblower that we're talking about. I know who you're talking about.
yeah,
I just
yeah.
don't want to say the name and
No,
let the
me,
cat out of the bag. I don't want to do that right now.
no,
But
no.
I am looking forward to doing that. The public deserves to know, and they should have the information that's out there. But for now, it's not like I'm holding the information back from you
No,
guys.
no,
Just
no.
simply, I'm fact checking and making sure that everything is in place before the name is released.
Yeah.
You guys will, you'll be surprised, and also, surprised in a good way and a bad way. You'll be like, oh, I had no idea, but I kind of thought, but not really. And, so this will clarify things for you guys for sure. So,
And yeah, and I've talked to some people, what I did was I talked to people who work in anti-cyber bullying
mhm,
and who actually work with whistleblowers to allow them to safely come forward. So I've talked to a few different people and they've told me, well, this is how this should be done. You need to come forward with everything you know. You need to do a video as yourself. And I've done that. I actually did a 2-hour video that I posted on my channel. If you want, I could send it to you
sure.
in because I've openly said what happened without disclosing
Mhm.
the factoids of the actual correspondences and whatnots.
Mhm.
So I've done the video, so that's up. I was advised to do that because if I talk about these whistleblowers and whatnot, they can hit me back with saying nasty things about me.
Yeah.
So I was told as a precautionary thing to do the video, to provide all of the work that I've ever done as a list,
Hmm.
to back up my sources with date stamps and everything, which I've done.
Hmm.
So people can't say I've copied this person and did this, and that, and that I plagiarized somebody, this, and that. I've covered my bases, so that can't be said anymore about me because I didn't do those things to other people.
Yeah, you can
Um,
email me the link. My email is
yes.
omar at watcherstalk.com. For anybody out there that wants my email,
Mm-hmm.
omar at watcherstalk.com, you can send me that link there. And,
Mm-hmm.
I'd be really interested to view that for sure.
I'm supposed to be making a presentation about wet rooms. I'm supposed to be making a presentation about Antarctica that I'm way behind on because I've now focused on the smart suits, the holographic medical pods, and the Meditech units. I've just disclosed everything I know on Facebook in 3 different posts, and I'm now busy putting this into a presentation, which is a follow-up to the video that I just did. And I was advised by the cyberbullying advisor and the coming out as whistleblower, which I'm not coming out as. I don't claim to be a whistleblower, but I did get advice on it, how to do it properly, because I don't want to be stepping on anybody's toes.
Hmm.
I don't want to be violating copyright laws, but there has to be some way of doing this all properly where you're not infringing on anybody's rights, but still putting out stuff that needs to be out there.
That's right. Public deserves to know. They should know, and it's just a process of releasing the information. Really, because you want to remain credible, you want to remain kosher too at the same time, and stay safe too. And that's the key. Not only your own safety, but the safety of your family and friends as well.
And the other person on the other end of the correspondence too, because you have to, if you're going to whistleblow correspondence, you have to redact everything. You have to, it's a long process. That's what I was talking about with the advisors on
Hmm.
this. I have a friend who owed me a favor or two, so they connected me with those people for free consultations and actually how to do it properly. Because I don't want to be the one putting it out there, to tell
Yeah,
you the
that's
truth.
right.
I have the info. Like if somebody, I have it, and I don't mind talking about it. Like I freely talked about it in that video I just put out. Is just how do you just whistleblow something in still doing it respectfully, but sharing it so you don't make the other person look bad, you don't make yourself look bad, but you still disclose the truth and what
Hmm.
needs to be disclosed. Because what happened with me and that whistleblower, it was out of context and it was weird, and it just defies the law. For me, it defies the law of gravity, really. But
Mm-hmm.
what's really gravity these days, right? So,
That's right.
and how do you work through it? And if you want to disclose this to the public, how do you do it properly? That's something I was told by the anti-cyberbullying person. You have to tell your side of it exactly as it was, and what's happened with that other whistleblower who's come forward with the smart suits. If you can link what you've been saying to the new information that was provided by somebody else that sounds very similar to yours, you've linked the corroboration despite not corroborating with that person. If it's out in public on the internet, you can link the information together to prove what you've been trying to say all along, that you're not a fake, you're not a liar, and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I've linked it, and I've provided the body of evidence of all my information where this material is mentioned about the smart suits. Similar to what that new person is saying, the whistleblower, Emery Smith. Because he's public, I could say his name. I'm not personally in any way or shape associated with him, but his info is precisely, it's public, and it's precisely almost the same as mine, down to the bio-waste of the suits, smart suits. It controls the bio-waste. So I'm like, you know what? Now it can be linked, it could be reviewed, it could be analyzed, and we could figure it out somehow.
Yeah, all those questions all of a sudden come up, right? Like how, when, where, how am I going to do this? And yeah, truly, it's a challenge that needs to be overcome, because there's information there that the public needs to know, and we just simply can't continuously sit on this information, because then we're doing disservice to the public, and especially our audience. They have the right to know.
Yeah, and what the anti-cyberbullying advisor asked me this: what was the motive of the person who you were doing the correspondence with? Did they publicly out you as something? What's their motive as a person? As what are they doing? What job are they in? Are they a public speaker, public personality? Are they on the internet? And the answer is yes to all of the above. I think they have a motive of why. And the second question was, the advisor asked me, what type of information do they put out? And what type of information that you put out, and who are you? And that's when the fun stuff came of there's connections and the why and where and how and what happened. So all valid questions, right, that you and I need to discuss and disseminate the material that I sent to you. Like what's the motivation behind what happened with me and this whistleblower? What's there, what's not there, what's the motive, what's the agenda, and what are the connections in all of this?
And really, I want to, thank you very much for sharing your information and your time with us this afternoon. And also a huge thanks to everyone who's joined us here in Zoom, and also on our live stream on Facebook, and as well on watcherstalk.com. Now, I just want to quickly say that in the pinned comments on our Facebook stream, we have a petition that needs to be signed. We're looking for 1 million signatures. This is to save the standing stones in Australia. It is a sacred site. It's an ancient site, and it's one of the key sites on the planet. And if we can help protect it and preserve the site, then that can activate all the other sites on the planet. And we will have a very elegant ending, and if not, then we're all in trouble. So I implore you to go and sign this petition, share it with your friends, family, and your co-workers, anyone that you possibly can. Please do so, because it's in the best interest of all of us. And of course, we have our Watchers Ancient Discovery Tour coming up on April 7th through to the 20th with memotours.com. Check out memotours.com. The itinerary is there. The booking information is there. And as well, we're working on a huge trip as well for next year in Angkor Wat with Ancient Mysteries International, Klaus Donna, Michael Callinger, and myself, and a number of other people. So that's going to be a fantastic, fun tour. We'll be releasing information for that tour over the course of, again, next couple of weeks to a month. And with that being said, my name is Omar. I am your host, and I was coming streaming at you guys from Vancouver, Canada. Be happy, be safe, and just do something nice for someone. Like in the morning when you go to buy a cup of coffee, just buy someone a coffee behind you and tell the teller to just to pass it forward, and see how far we can stretch that line out. And if we all do it, we're going to have some very, very positive energy, not only in ourselves, but in our communities as well. So thank you very much for joining us here this evening or this afternoon on Watchers Talk. And much love to you guys. You guys are great supporters of Watchers Talk, and please continue to support us. Thank you very much. Good night.